Hello guys and welcome back to my channel, and this video is going to be about all the books that I have read so far in 2026. And yeah, a lot of them were 5-star reads, so yeah. And also a disclaimer that this video has a lot of spoilers from all these books, so yeah, if you haven't read these books yet, so I recommend that you just pause before you watch the whole video. So yeah, without further ado, let's start the video. And I actually track all the books that I read in Goodreads, so yeah, let's start. Okay. So yeah, the first book that I read was Never Lie, and yeah, I do remember that I finished reading this book earlier in 2026, I think in Jan or Feb. And yeah, I do remember seeing this book all over my Instagram and how people are hyping it up and like how the plot twist is just crazy. And I personally did like the book, but I think the book is a little overhyped because, as you know, Tricia, also known as Patricia later in the book, was like very nervous and fidgety person in the starting of the book. You can see like how nervous and scared she is in the starting of the book, and the whole house is like spooking her. And yeah, we do know the reason of it at the end, but I still feel like the person she was in the starting of the book and the person that she became in the ending of the book, and like how she was revealed to be very bold. And I don't know if it's like some kind of personality disorder or what, but I feel like if a person is like very fidgety and nervous in the starting of the book, and towards the end of the book the person just gets like really bold and the person has did some like really creepy stuff. So yeah, I just didn't get that. And if you know, even if it's a rumor, if you know like someone has been killed in the house, why would you even buy it, even if the house is like very beautiful and very cheap? But if you know something bad has happened there and it's like in the middle of nowhere and there are chances that there is no network there, why would you risk it all, first of all? And I just don't get it when like the characters choose something stupid like in the story. So I just didn't get that. But yeah, overall, I would like to give it 3 stars out of 5. And yeah, it was a good read. It was interesting. It was not too bad. Yeah, you can give it a try, I would say. And yeah, moving on, we have The Miracles of the Namia General Store. And oh my god, this book was just so unexpected. And I personally read books without knowing what the book is about. I just see a cover, I just see the title, and I just read like 1-2 lines about what the book is about, and I just go in blind into the book. And I did the same with this book, and I do that with all the books. And this book did not disappoint at all. And I think I fell in love with Japanese books because of this, because this book was just so magical, so intriguing. And also, you know, there are like different scenarios from life, and you know, you can relate to some of them. And you know, overall I think the book had a lot of good vibes, and you know, there are quotes that like really sticks to you. And I feel like the overall plot was totally good, and even till now I feel like I haven't properly understood the plot. Like, I mean, I have some questions, but the book in itself is really good. I think you should definitely give it a read. And yeah, this is a 5-star read for me. I did not regret reading this book. I loved every page of this book. Everything was like so good. If you are someone who likes reading Japanese books, or like you want something calm, and yeah, if you want some book that writes about life disguised in stories, this is the one for it. Because you know, the issues brought up here and the answers that the general store owner gives, I think those are like literally so good. I remember a particular question and its answer because it was hilarious and at the same time really intelligent. A boy asked in his letter that I want my relatives to give me more money, you know, during festivals when they give you envelopes full of money inside. So yeah, the boy wanted that I want more money inside them. So Mr. Namia replied it in another letter that what you should do is you should start a tradition in the family that you should give transparent envelopes, because you know, relatives compared among each other. So yeah, they would like to give more because you know, since it's a transparent envelope, everyone can see what amount of money you are giving someone. So everyone will be trying to give you more money than the other person. So yeah, I think it was like very witty and also hilarious at the same time. And yeah, I think I read this like early in 2026, I think Feb, March. This was the next book that I read after Never Lie. So yeah. Okay, so the next book that we read was The Intruder by Frida McFadden, and I loved the vibe of this book. And I think the overall vibe was quite creepy. like there is a house in the middle of nowhere and there's a storm rolling in, the lights are out, and the whole house has that vintage kind of look to it. So yeah, I think overall the vibe of this book was definitely good. The setting was pretty good. And yeah, the book did explore some good themes, and like the story was strong. I don't remember the names of characters of the book very well because I read it earlier in 2026. But yeah, I do remember that one person's name was, I guess, Anthony, who was in jail and whose younger brother, towards the end of the book, starts dating the girl his older brother used to date. And I think his younger brother just did that out of pure affection for the girl. And I was really shocked because I really thought that Anthony was dead. I guess he's not. So yeah, I think I enjoyed the book. And yeah, the whole abusive parents theme was really like touching, and I feel like the topic was really nice and how it was woven into this psychological thriller book. And yeah, I like how the main character had went through something similar in her childhood, and that's how she found Anthony in the first place. And moving on, the next book that I read was You Will Be the Death of Me by Karen M. McManus. And yeah, I have the whole collection of Karen M. McManus with myself. Like, it has the cousins, one of us is lying, one of us is next, You'll Be the Death of Me. I have the whole collection of her, and I have read so far only 2 books from the collection. I know I'm a little behind, but you just get swayed by all the new books that are coming in, and you just don't know which book to pick, because in the starting of the book, the 3 friends just bunking school like the old days, like they had once did on the field trip. And yeah, the book started off like a pretty normal day and a pretty normal morning. But yeah, the whole day took a roll, and yeah, things started going wrong. And I feel like I did enjoy this book, and I think I'll give it a 4 out of 5 star. Okay, so moving on, the next book that I read was Take Me Back to Yesterday by Jasmine Little, and I actually heard this book on Instagram. And yeah, I just recently watched Voicemails for Isabel, and I think the story is kind of similar. But yeah, in this book, the younger sister is grieving her older sister's death, and the whole book, I have absolutely enjoyed every page of this book, and there were so many cute moments and there were so many good lovely quotes that this book had. And I absolutely loved the chemistry of Miles and Emma. And one thing that I liked about the character Emma is that how imperfect she was and how she was clumsy, and she was unknowingly selfish sometimes. And yeah, she tried her best to help other people, but sometimes you just can't cope up with your feelings and you just don't know how to share it with anyone. And even though you try to do your best to help someone, you just end up making things hard for others even though you don't intend to do so. So yeah, I liked how the character was so imperfect. She had so many flaws in her, but Miles still liked her anyway. And the way Miles describes Emma, how she's so full of life, I love how Miles described Emma throughout the book. And I definitely loved their whole romance plot. And obviously, as I said, I have watched Voicemails of Isabel, and I could just connect to the book as a sister. And you know how it's hard on you, even though you fight with your siblings all the time. But yeah, living a life without your siblings in it is just like the worst nightmare. So yeah, I was also very emotional through the whole sister plot because I have an older sister, so you could just feel the grief of losing your sibling, even though it's just a fiction book. But the book was so good that it made you connect to the characters, and you grieved with the characters. So yeah, that's why I think it was similar to Voicemails of Isabel, and I liked it because it was from the perspective of a younger sibling and what younger siblings have to go through, what's on their mind, and they are not just as carefree as everyone thinks that they are. Because I think every person carries some kind of guilt, some kind of secret, some kind of burden within themselves. And I think this book explored that, and how you can lean on some of your closest family members or friends. And yeah, I think this book was very close to my heart, so I would like to give it a 5 out of 5 stars. And then the next book I read was another mystery thriller book, that was Local Women Missing by Mary Kubica. I actually saw this book suggested on my Goodreads page, so I was like, yeah, let's give it a try. And the book started off pretty strong. I thought that it was going to be some kind of affair mystery thriller, like the women did some kind of affair and like it's revolved around that. But no, the book completely changed my mind because this book turned out to be something much more deeper. But yeah, towards the end of the book, I kind of guessed what the plot was because there is one trick that can help you solve the whole mystery thriller plot in books. That is, if there are certain number of characters, and it is actually easy if there are a limited number of characters, because in the book there were only 2 to 3 people's POV. So yeah, it was easier to guess because when a person's POV is introduced in a book like this, that like the person is involved in the whole plot somehow. That's why their POV matters. So that's why I kind of guessed that B was somehow involved in this. But yeah, still the plot was pretty good. But I think the book did got a little boring and a little stretchy in the middle of it. But yeah, I would say that I still enjoyed the book overall. But yeah, towards the end, you seem to like the book because the plot is like really good. So yeah, I will give the book a 3.5 stars out of 5. And yeah, the next book that I read was my first Indian rom-com that I had read so far in 2026. It was Every Time It Rains by Nikita Singh, and this book was absolutely so good because this book addressed some issues that women face all over the world in societies, and especially Indian society, how marital abuses are like so commonized and women just don't talk enough about it even to their parents because it is just so disheartening. I feel the book also explored how everyone deserves a second chance at love, and I also loved how this book explored love in different forms, in the form of romance, in the form of friendship, in the form of family. So yeah, I think the book was very lovely, and also I personally loved JD's character. I mean, he was just so full of life and he was just so fun. And yeah, the way he used to sing songs to Leila, I feel I just absolutely love it. And also, when Leila and JD met for the first time, JD was like, I give you my orange, so yeah, of course, I like you. And that was just like really cute. So yeah, I think this book was very, very good. I would give it a 5 out of 5 stars. Moving on, I read a novella by Frida McFadden. It was The Gift. And yeah, I think this book was pretty creepy and disturbing because the whole book was like pretty insane and just like so creepy overall. And yeah, being a horror genre girly, I think this book absolutely hit. So I think I'd give it like a 4 out of 5 stars. Moving on, I read another novella by Frida McFadden, and I actually read these two novella on the same day because I was actually going out to get my hair done, and there was like 1 or 2 hours of waiting there at the hair salon. So yeah, I thought why not utilize it by reading some good book, and I thought yeah, novella might be perfect because it's short and it's gripping. So yeah, I read Death Row, and trust me when I say this, if you haven't read this book, I don't know what you are doing because this book is absolutely, absolutely amazing because there are only a few mystery thrillers that can make you cry, that can make you feel so much at the same time. Because when you start the book, you are guessing like this would happen, that would happen, this is the ultimate thing, that is the ultimate thing. But the end is just so heartbreaking. I mean, it's just so sad. I mean, this is the first time I have felt so good after reading a novella because it was definitely worth my time. And yeah, I absolutely loved it and enjoyed it. I would give it obviously 5 out of 5 stars. Moving on, I read another Frida McFadden book, and as I said, I am on a roll because I like reading Frida McFadden book, and it's like if she writes it, I'm going to read it. And I only started reading this author in 2025, so yeah, I am still a little behind on all her books. So yeah, I was catching up. And Ward D was pretty insane because you know how the main character kept saying, what if they put me in a room in a mental asylum? And yeah, it was just like very disturbing sentence because it makes you think like, what have you done to make you think like this about yourself? And yeah, the ward that she had her shift at also had her friend there. So yeah, the vibe was overall creepy. And also towards the end, I again guessed it that like the doctor was like something off was about the doctor. Because in books like these, if you feel like if something is too good to be true, then it is not as good as you think. Because at the end, the doctor turned out to be her best friend's boyfriend. And yeah, the story got really violent at the end, but I think I still enjoyed the whole book because it was like slowly creeping up on you. So yeah, I think I'll give it like a 3.5 out of 5 stars. Moving on, I read another Frida McFadden book. It was The Dinner Party, a Pick Your Poison adventure. And if you have read Goosebumps book in your childhood, you must remember that the Goosebumps books had a few books which were like this, and where you could just pick your ending. The book had several kind of endings, and on the basis of the decisions that you made, the ending changed. And yeah, it was something like that, and I thought that it was going to be good, and I read through 4 5 different endings of this book, but I still don't understand what is a good ending in this book and what is not anymore. And the whole thing is just like really weird. I feel like I thought like there was going to be something more, but this is just like it was very short, and I don't get the whole plot. I didn't get what it was offering us, and I just didn't know like why was this book actually written. So yeah, I didn't really enjoy it. I'm going to be giving it like a 1.5 out of 5 stars. Okay, so moving on, the next book that I read was Scary Stories 3 More Tales to Chill Your Bones. And I actually read a physical copy of the book because I bought this book at a book fair a few months ago, and I bought this book for a very specific reason. Let me show you why. So this book had some like really creepy and disturbing images, and I like horror, mystery, thriller genre in particular. So yeah, I was like very intrigued by the whole theme of this book, and yeah, I thought why not buy it. And this was like a very short read, and yeah, it has some like very short stories, and it has some poems which are horror. Some stories are creepy, some stories are just meant to disturb you. And when I reached the end of this book, I actually read that few of the incidents in this book were actually real. And I remember one particular story and incident in this book. I don't remember the exact chapter name, but yeah, I do remember that there was a mother and a daughter who was staying at a hotel, and her mother, like out of nowhere, gets really sick, and the girl is like going out of the hotel to search for some doctor to get help. And by the time she comes back, the hotel room that she was staying in was completely changed, and her mother, like, just simply disappeared. Her mother was nowhere to be found. And later on, the book at the end, it reveals that this was a true incident. And in the end, I read that actually her mother had died of a plague that was like in the city at that time, and the hotel's manager didn't want the hotel's reputation to get like ruined. So yeah, because the doctor couldn't save her mother, which the hotel staff had managed to get her, because of which they hid the mother's dead body and like yeah, just pretended like nothing ever happened, and the girl had never stayed at the hotel with her mother. So yeah, that was kind of like really disturbing. So yeah, I kind of enjoyed it, but it was not as good and as horror as I expected it to be. So yeah, I think I'll give it like a 3 out of 5 stars. Okay, so the next book that I read was The Lantern of Lost Memories by Sanaka Hiragi. And as I said, I had started to love Japanese fiction books, and I started reading this, and it is a very good read if you're someone who likes to read slow and cozy books. And it also explores so much about life, because when a person is at door's death, they look back at their lives, and there is just so many things going through their heads, that how they spend their lives, the moments that they cherished, the silly things that we think that don't matter in our lives, but at the end when we look back, those things were actually pretty good even though we didn't notice them. And yeah, it's just very nostalgic. It's early 2000s Japan vibes. And yeah, some quotes and some stories in the book like really hit you, because you start thinking about your own life and all the choices that you made and how you have been leading up to this life. So yeah, I think as someone who is very nostalgic and who just likes to explore the idea of life itself, I think this book is very heart touching and heartwarming. I loved it because it was warm, cozy, and yeah, it just had a lot of wisdom hidden in the form of stories. So yeah, obviously I'll give it a 5 out of 5 star rating. And then again, we have a Frida McFadden read, that is Dead Med. And I just don't want to speak anything about this book because I am so utterly disappointed. When I started this book, I was like, oh, this is going to be like very good, or like, something really interesting, because I trusted Frida enough that her books are going to be with some insane plot twists. But this one was just, I just didn't get why did she write this book. Like, I just didn't enjoy its plot. I didn't get why the book was so long, because the story was very short. The concept was very short, but the book was so long. Yeah, when there was the mention of a past girl dying of overdose of pills. So yeah, the book was not highly enjoyable by me. So I think I'll just give it like 2 out of 5, because it was like, okay, like the next book that I read is Petty Lies by Sulmi Bak, and I actually heard about this book on Instagram, that it's a short book and it's a short read. And I read this book, I finished it, and yeah, the concept that they introduced was really unique and good, because animal abuse is something that is not highly talked of, not in books, not in media, not much overall, because I think it's something that we people normally overlook in our everyday lives. But yeah, I think it was pretty interesting. But yeah, the whole plot twist and the teacher herself was pretty witty, and also how it explored the theme of parental favoritism with their children, even unknowingly. So yeah, I feel like the concepts were really strong, but story wise, I would say I didn't get the hype overall. So I'm just going to give it like a 2.5 out of 5 star rating. The next book that I read was Five Survive by Holly Jackson, and this book did not disappoint at all. I absolutely loved this book. It was so intense. And as I said, I love the book when it has some teenagers in middle of the whole mystery thriller plot. And this book had 6 friends and they were traveling through an RV, and how things were taking a turn of event every few chapters. I was really sad, and I finished this book in 7 hours straight. I was reading it throughout the night, and yeah, this was a very good read, because at the end of the book we realized that Red had all along this kind of anxiety and everything, because of which she kept mentioning that the RV was 31 feet long, 1 extra foot, and also how the curtain had some pattern that she couldn't crack, and we thought that it was connected to the plot somehow, but it was actually just mentioned to show the kind of turmoil that Red has inside her head. And also at the end of the book, when Red is shot, how she thinks of her mother. I mean, that scene was just really surreal. I was so deeply touched, because it explained mother and daughter's love in so beautiful words at the end of the book. And I think I was like, yeah, this is exactly it. And yeah, I was really pissed off at Oliver, because I don't know what was wrong with him throughout the book. But yeah, this book is absolutely amazing, and the letter at the end by Arthur to Red was also really nice. I think it was kind of cute. But overall, this book was really gripping, and if you are into mystery thrillers and if you haven't read this one yet, what are you doing? Seriously, go and read this book. Trust me, you'll not regret it. Okay, moving on to my favorite book, that is The Predator. I didn't expect that I'm going to like this book, but as you can see, the number of tabs that I have put on this book is insane, because this book and its whole series was on my bookshelf for such a long time, and I just didn't pick it up because, as you know, I'm not much into rom-coms or dark romance. But I was like, since I have bought this book, I have to read it. So I started reading it. And this book literally ate, because the things were so intense, but the way the dark romance was portrayed through the whole book was just so immersing. As you can see, I loved so many quotes, so many lines, so many moments in the book that I had literally put so many tabs on the book. This was such an enjoyable dark romance, and I loved Tristan and Morana's whole plot and whole romance and their whole chemistry. And I am currently reading The Reaper, and I am almost halfway through the book. And I think the books just keep get interesting in this series, because this was really interesting and this book is even more interesting than this one. So you can successfully say that this whole book series is actually super good. Trust me, if you are going to read one book in this whole year, let it be this book. And especially Tristan's penthouse. I mean, oh my god, the way that Morana describes his penthouse and the view from the living room window, I think that is just so surreal, because I personally like that kind of houses. And yeah, I was like really jealous, because now I want a penthouse like that. And I would like to give this book a 10 out of 5-star rating, because this book isn't hyped enough. I mean, go read it. There is no more explanation needed for it. Okay, so moving on, the next book that I read was The Girl's Trip by Jason Leitz. And I actually started reading this book because I wanted something related to, an outing that turns wrong. And yeah, this was exactly that. There were three girls who were out on a weekend vacation, weekend getaway, and they had booked an Airbnb in the middle of nowhere because, budget issues. And the weekend totally goes wrong because some really creepy shit starts happening to them. I think throughout the book we get to know how all the three female characters hide such deep truths within themselves. We get to know the whole plot, and it's actually kind of creepy and disturbing because you are just like stuck with those girls, and you just can't go anywhere because you don't have cell service and your car's tires are punctured. So like the whole theme is pretty crazy. And when you get to read the book, you'll understand how each of the elements played. And yeah, I think the book was overall pretty good. I enjoyed it, although the plot was like kind of absurd, and I don't want to give a lot of spoiler about this because this book is actually pretty good and you can give it a try. And I would personally give it a 5 out of 5 stars because I enjoy these kind of books where you are stuck somewhere and things are actually crazy because of some actually crazy reasons. And yeah, moving on, the next book that I read was Room for Rent by Noel W. E. Healy. I don't know how that is pronounced. I was simply scrolling through Pinterest and I suddenly found this book and how it's extremely gripping thriller. So yeah, I thought why not give it a try because the premises seems pretty good, pretty strong to be creepy, and I expected something different from what this book actually provided me, because I think the locations were limited, the characters were limited, and they didn't have like too many dark secrets except for the plot. I think without that character, no other two characters had any kind of personal deep secrets, because it was not overall as disturbing and as involved we think it is, though it had some pretty creepy setting where a girl actually sees a room online for rent, and this room is near her college and she can't afford very rich dorms like other people because she's broke. So she basically goes for this room, and she thought that Sydney would be a girl with whom she would be sharing this room, but we later find out that Sydney is actually a man and she has to stay with him because she has already paid the amount in advance and there aren't many options where she could go. So yeah, she starts living there and some creepy things start happening to her. Her bathroom door doesn't have a lock, and while she's sleeping at night, she has a lot of sleepless nights because she always thinks that like someone is watching her, and she hears footsteps in the house, and like yeah, she gets really creeped out by the whole thing. But yeah, I think the plot twist was okayish and the whole book was okayish, but I didn't quite enjoy it, and I was expecting so much more from this book because the plot was good, like because going into a house that you have rented for college and it turns out to be very creepy and disturbing things start happening. the setting would be really good. If the book had been written a little more better, it would be good. But otherwise, I think I'll give it a 3 out of 5 star rating. Okay, so moving on, we have Such a Nice Girl by Andrea Mara. And I read this book because on Goodreads I saw that Frida McFadden had read this book and actually gave it 5 stars. And I get it why. I see all the reasons why this book deserves to have 5 stars. This book is actually insane. I have seen Andrea Mara's book adaptation TV series, which is All Her Fault, and I really enjoyed it. So I started reading this book, and this book was a roller coaster because every evidence that you find leads to a different culprit, and you just keep thinking, you keep wondering, oh, maybe like this is the culprit, this is the culprit. But you just never understand it because throughout the book, one culprit is proved to be innocent later, and like things like these keep happening and you keep on guessing, but the plot turns out to be something really different. And I really enjoyed the whole investigation, whole thing, because that's how real life investigation or like movie investigations work. You have a lot of suspects, you're interviewing them, you're confused because not all mystery thriller books are like fast paced where you know what the plot is by the middle end of the book. So yeah, it was really gripping because you just keep wondering what is happening. And yeah, there is a lot of investigation going on, so throughout the book you are trying to guess what is actually happening. So yeah, I think this book proved to be really nice. And also how the whole plot is about mothers and their Gen Z daughters who just are somehow missing because they were all attending a wedding, and the girls that are staying in another room by the pool are just missing, and then there's blood found in their room. So, the book started off pretty strong, and how later it is revealed that Luna has a habit of stealing. So, I even suspected Luna for a time because I think Luna might be the suspect because, throughout the half of the book, you didn't really suspect Trey or Luna because, that would be like too direct to be a plot. So yeah, but later on I started to suspect Luna a little. But even after ending the book, I still can't figure out why did Luna actually stole Siobhan, whatever it is pronounced, her watch. Because I think then Luna's true identity isn't still clearly revealed at the end. But yeah, I also liked how Ray and Luna mean star and moon because their mothers were best friend. I like that thing. So yeah, I think this book was actually a 5 on 5 read. You should definitely read it. And then the book that I recently finished a few weeks ago is No Exit by Taylor Adams, and this book has been going viral for quite a few years now, and I thought to finally give it a try. And the book escalated pretty quickly. You didn't have time to analyze one thing before the other big thing happens. And this book is the exact evidence of why you shouldn't trust strangers completely so easily that you have just met for a few hours. And the whole thing is really, really messed up. And how at the end, most of the characters, I mean, among 5 of the adult characters, 3 are involved in something so weird because the concept of child abduction is really disturbing, and how people are casually involved in it. Like one of the character is the child's bus driver, and I'm like, these kind of things actually are happening in the world. So yeah, this book was kind of very disturbing. And also I loved how the main characters were like totally fighting for their lives. And I absolutely loved how Darby and Jay were like fighting for their lives. And they had such limited resources, but they still ended up putting on such a brave fight till the very end. And I think both of these characters were truly witty because the kind of steps that they took towards the abductors were truly amazing. Because when you are in a situation like this, you have got to think fast, and one wrong move could really result into something negatively massive. So yeah, I really love how Darby made such good choices throughout the book, because when the main character chooses a very bad choice, you are just like frustrated because why is the character not choosing the viable right choice that is also easy and that can save your life. So yeah, I really love how Darby is like really witty throughout the book, and how she makes good use of the limited resources, and how her mind is like top notch working throughout the whole scene. So yeah, I absolutely loved this book. This is also a 5 on 5 star read. So yeah, this is everything that I read in 2026. So yeah, let me know in the comments what you guys have been reading, and I'll see you in the next vlog. Bye.